transition from the historical and spiritual, mind you, right? Because what we will overstand from Dr. Varma's presentation and from what Dr. Kaba provided us with is that as ancient Africans, there was no separation between religion, science, community, or statehood, and all of these things. So Dr. Varma, I like to call him a religious subject matter expert. And I'm not placing a whole lot on him because I don't even think that really quantifies who this brother is. So I align myself to Dr. Varma and our Holy Coptic Church, our ancient Tamarayan or ancient African church religion, because it made too much sense. And I was always traveling back. But what were we doing at this point? Before that point, what were we doing here? And he was able to take us back, and I'll just keep this portion brief, 25,000 years. I'll just say at that point. And knowing, and I'm going to drop a heavy mound on it, it'll clarify it. And knowing that we have a 24 billion year history. All right, man. A 24 billion year history. Right? And different, as it relates to different cycles that exist on this planet that we live in. And without further ado,
how's everybody feeling? Good. Very good. As Dr. Kaba was speaking with you, and I was sitting in the back, I was listening. And he and I, the last few days, and over the last probably month and a half, we've been communicating over the telephone. And we've done some online broadcasts together. He addresses the educational aspect, the historical aspect. And I come and I talk to you from the religious aspect. In ancient Tamarayan, or what you call today Africa, there was no separation between church and state. It was understood or overstood that true spirituality or true religious identity worked hand in hand with our civil or our governments. There was no separation. Now, I want to start off by saying something that I learned today. When we went to the federal penitentiary at work, we spoke for about 2.5 hours. And after speaking, we got to meet with different inmates. It was probably about 100, 150 of them. And everybody was saying thank you for coming in. And they were really excited that we came. And one of the inmates came up to me and said, I appreciate you coming and everything you said, but I disagree with most of what you said. I said, no, but I disagree because you don't believe in God. You don't believe in the Creator. I said, no, that's not what I said. No, that's what you said. So, instead of going back and forth, I said, well, if I gave that impression, let me apologize for giving that impression, because that's not what I meant. He said, well, I don't need the apology, and he pretty much walked away. Now, I could have gotten my ego in the way and said, well, who does he think he is? And instead, I said, okay, what's my lesson? My lesson is, be clear. So I'm going to be clear when I start right now. I believe, as Dr. Kaba believes, as Brother Banks Bay believes, in a supreme force, or source, or entity, or being, or divinity. Is everybody clear? We are not anti the Creator, nor those creators that came forth out of that creative force or that creative source. Is everybody clear? All right. I believe in the original books of the Bible. Can y'all please repeat what I just said? I believe in the original books of the Bible. Do we have that so far? All right. I believe that 2,000 years ago there was a Savior who came to a people. I do not believe that Savior is whom we've been made to believe he is. Is everybody clear?
That's right.
All right. Why is that important? That is important because, as Dr. Calvin just mentioned, whenever you say something to a people, when we speak about blackness and who we are and where we've come from and how we built the pyramids and how we did all these great things and how we were the first life on earth, everybody in here said what? That's right. That's right. Deep. Powerful. Go on, bro. Right?
Keep it going.
But when we touch on that thing called religion, ooh, here we had a person who understood you were all this greatness. But if I said to you, you were all of that, but you were not this religions that we've embraced, then you get taken aback. How could you accept you were the Paleo-American? You were Nubian. You were Asaru. You were the Aztecs. You were the ancient people of the Caribbean, the Arawak. You could accept all this greatness, and that all this greatness predates modern monotheism. Yet if someone says to you, then if that is the case, then how could you really be Christian as it's called today, Muslim as it's called today, or Jewish or Hebrew or whatever names that everybody's grabbed to identify themselves with today? And further, what is it inside of us that makes us innately want to relate to these religions? Because it's not something that people say, well, that's because of slavery. No. Well, that's because of colonial invasion into Africa. No. That's because of the Arab invasion into Africa, or the East Indian from the land of sin, of their invasion into Africa. No. Because prior to their coming into what we call Tamaré, or what you call Africa today, we had a true religious identity. If I was speaking to a Christian, and I'm a Christian, and I tell people, say, I'm a true Christian. Now, what does that mean? Well, like everyone else in this room, I grew up here in America, and I went to school, and I went to Catholic school, and I learned Virgin Mary and Pope, and Paul and St. Peter, and the whole thing. And in learning it, I learned certain things that I'm sure I share in common with you. And one of those things that we share in common with you is, or we should say, is becoming, as we awaken, that this individual called Jesus, I want you to say that name. This individual called Jesus. A babe. I want you to take your mind for a moment. You ready? There's a manger. This is how the story was taught to me. So if I'm wrong in how I tell it, please correct me. There was a manger, and in this manger sat this young lady. She was pregnant. She went into labor in Judea, and she brought forth a male child. Yes? Mm-hmm. And there were shepherds in this manger. And this wise men came and traveled from some lands to find this baby. Right? And this baby, according to what we learned, was the Savior to humanity. He was the Son of God. And this baby was going to save his people. I'm getting it right so far?
Yeah, Immaculate Conception.
And then this individual, this child was protected because this child was the Son of God. Yes?
Yes.
And this child's life was in danger because Herod, something about Herod wanting to kill the child. Right? And then that's when the story gets a little interesting. Because then suddenly this child's mother and stepfather are told, take this child whose life is in danger and go to Africa. Oh, I know in the Bible it says Egypt, which is in Africa.
Yeah.
There was no Egyptos there.
That's right.
So I have an issue with that, because if this child is being taken to Africa to hide, I'm going to hide because I'm wanted right now. Not for real. And I'm going to Sweden to hide. I'll be okay, right? You and I both know it's really not going to work. So I'm saying that, so if this child is being taken to Africa to hide, not, okay, I'm going to send my child to Portugal. No, I'm going to send my child to Greece. No, Gabriel, Michael, come here. We got to figure out where we're going to send this baby. Well, Africa. This child goes to Africa, as the story is told, for 12 years or 13, depending who you ask, and then he pops up with Mary. Mary, I thought he was with you. Joseph, no, I thought he was with you. Where's this child? He's in the temple talking to the Pharisees, correct? So this child for 12 or 13 years lived in Africa. Like you and I, we grew up in America, and there's an educational system, right? In Africa, in that part of Africa that they want to call Egypt today, there was an educational system. When you don't go to school here, what do they call it?
Truancy.
Well, in Talmud, we had an educational system, so this child was thereby required. Is this true? So what this individual was teaching was an African doctrine. This individual happened to be an African. But the problem comes in the play on words. When I look in my Bible today, King James Version, I got about 7 different Bibles. And I carry all these different Bibles, the Hebrew, the New Revised, American Standard, because whenever I speak, there's always people who say, that's not in the Bible. So I get the Jehovah's Witness, I get the Witness, so that way when I say something, I can say, well, which one of you? Which one's in your Bible? Now, I want you to bear with us for a moment. Jesus. I look in the New Testament. Tell me some books in the New Testament. Anybody? Let's leave those. Leave those for a minute. We'll leave those for a minute. Now give me the ones that we really hear about.
Galatians.
Corinthians.
Ephesians. Come on, give me all of them.
Revelation.
Okay, good. Corinthians. Good book? Is it a book or a letter? It's called an epistle. Corinth. Geographical location. Greece. So this was a letter to some people living in Greece. Ephesians. Geographical location. The Aegean, Greece. Ephesians. Galatia. Geographical location. Galatia, Greece city state. Thessalonians, Thessaly, geographical location. Greece. So when we're quoting these letters that were designed for the Greek city-states, we have to be careful that we have not been duped into embracing Greek mythology. How do I say that? Well, let's talk some Greek mythological belief systems that has found their way into what we had as original Christian doctrine. I want you to say Christian.
Christian.
I want you to say Christian.
Christian.
There is a difference. When we say Christian, then according to the Bible, the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch. And where's Antioch? Greece. Greece city-state. Antiochus. I'm about to clean you up. See, because we've been brain dirty and have to have our brains washed. Somebody tricked us into thinking being brainwashed is a bad thing. Being brain dirty is a bad thing. I'm not going to mess you up. Not too much. I'll be working. So, we are arguing as Muslims and Christians and Jews about dogmas without knowing the origin and the influences of those people and those lands that produced those dogmas. As a little boy, I remember someone saying to me, "Man, don't blaspheme God. If you blaspheme God, you're going to get
Struck by lightning.
struck." Say again. Struck by lightning. Anybody ever hear that? Listen. Is that an African precept or a Greek concept? Greek. Because according to the Greeks, if you spoke ill of Kronos and Zeus, who would strike you down? Thor. With what? Lightning. So how did that come on over into what we call Christianity? And who is doing this? I'm going to describe somebody. I want you to tell me who I'm describing. Ready? There's a man. He's about huge muscles, long hair. He can grab a lion with his bare hands, kill it. Who am I talking about? No, I'm talking about Hercules. Now let's see. Are there similarities between the biblical interpreted Samson and the Greek influenced Hercules? Hercules was of a tribe from Greece called Danoi. D-A-N-O-I. Say Danoi.
Danoi.
Samson was of a tribe called the tribe of Dan. Now, Hercules, his name, Hercules, means the sun god. Samson, Hebrew name is Shimshon. Shemish means the sun. Could be a coincidence. Or is somebody taking Greek mythology and putting it in a book and interpreting it for us outside of the original books of the Bible and have us hating each other? And one church, we Pentecostal Holy Saints outside. And everybody is at odds over that which we really don't know. Now, is there a biblical tribe of Dan? Yes. Is there a Greek tribe of Dan? You now can say yes. Is there an African tribe of Dan? Yes. In West Africa, you can look it up on your phone. It's called Dan. They wear the mask. It's called the Dan mask. It's a tribe of Dan. Messiah. Say Messiah.
Messiah.
Is there an African tribe called Messiah?
Yes. Messiah.
Messiah. When the Messiah come of age, what is their coming of age ritual? Not just the Messiah. They must kill a what?
A lion.
And what do they do with this lion's mane afterwards? They win. Who has you have a Google images on your phone, type in the Maasai lion's mask, and you see the men wearing these lion's masks, conquering lions. So did somebody take some rituals that you had genetically predisposed in your DNA to know and accept and sprinkle it through the Bible, which is why we gravitate to Bible, Quran, as it's interpreted today, without realizing that genetically you're predisposed to embrace these things. Because you are Messiah. You are Danoi. You are the original tribes, but someone played a game. The game was played with language. Because when you and I say tribe, say tribe. Now say dynasty. Dynasty. When you hear dynasty, what do you think, honestly? Royalty. What else do you think? The first time. Say it again. Say it again. Asian. You think outside of you. You don't relate to it. If I say Egypt, before you, those of you in this room who have become conscious, when you heard Egypt, when you first watched Charleston Heston as a little boy or girl, like I did, and Egypt, let my people go. How did you feel about Egypt? No, you felt, come on, Israelites. Drown those Egyptians. Right. Be honest. Right. I was there as right as I could be. Come on, go. Yes? Right. And so when we hear the word Egypt, we think pagan. That's right. And we were right, yet we were wrong. We were right And I'll tell you why in a moment. We were wrong because we are identified as Egypt. So you and I were being taught to hate who we were spiritually. But we were right in that we're really not Egyptian. The word Egyptian is Aegyptos, and it means to burn black. You were not Aegyptos. You were a Melaninite, born of the sun, and of the moon, and of the earth, and of the wind, and of the water. The Bible says it. Let us take man and form him of the earth. And the what? Wind. And how does that wind, what's that wind called that gives us life? Breath. And what's in the breath that gives us life? And what's in the air that gives us life? The element? Oxygen. And that oxygen is carried through the body by way of what? Blood. And that blood is the water. And when it reaches inside of each of us, is there a sun? Is there? Really? Oh, there is a solar plex. There is a generator of sort, a gland that produces an energy. So do you have earth, wind, water, and fire? The elements of nature, the precepts of these elements are there in the Bible. The Bible speaks of, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the surface of the waters. Yes?
Yes.
What if I told you that is ancient African teachings? What if I told you the ancient Africans acknowledged that there were cycles to life? That there was an earth era, which was destroyed by earthquakes. There was a wind era, which was destroyed by massive dust storms and sandstorms. There was a water era, which was the submerging of all land mass. And there's a fire era, which you call meteorites and volcanic eruptions. The Bible further tells us, give man, and I got to keep quoting it the way it's written, dominion over the fish, water, fowl of the wind, and every creeping thing that moves upon the earth. So the precept of ancient Africa's elements, earth, wind, water, fire, isn't there in that Bible? Yes, it is. So where does the split come in? Now, what if I told you that what I'm saying right now, Bible scholars admit to and know? Make sure to get 2. And if it's not enough, they can share it and you'll get more.
Right.
This Bible here, this is one of the many Bibles I carry. It's King James Version. Zondervan. Zondervan is the one that Pastor Olstein uses. T.D. Jakes. Creflo. Reverend Price. A few others. Okay? What he's passing around is what I photostated out of here and pass it around, so we're going to read some stuff. Because when we're saying,
let's just see if we can share for now.
When we're saying that the original Codestian, because that's where we're going to go with this, that all of these original books of the Bible, the original records of ancient Africa come out of Africa. The original Bible, not King James' interpretation, not his version. The original version was found in Africa. When we say the original atonist doctrine, the original Codestian doctrine predates monotheism, we're called crazy. Now let's see. Do we have them? Can we share? Anyone? Please keep moving slow. That's okay. All right. If you have it.
If anybody wants to volunteer to help, that's fine too. I'm just messing.
All right. I'm going to need you to read with me. Do we have it? Ancient texts relating to the Old Testament. Do we all see that? If you don't have that page, flip it. It might be the page behind you. On the very top, it should say ancient texts relating to the Old Testament. Major representative examples of ancient Near Eastern non-biblical documents. Anybody see that?
Yes.
So they're telling you where you find these non-biblical documents that provide what? Parallels to do what?
To shed light
On
various
Old Testament passages. What is all that mumbo jumbo really saying? A lot of what you're reading in the Old Testament, there's some records, but they actually get deep here and they call it Near Eastern. Let's see where these Near Eastern records come from. The Amarna letters. Hundreds of letters written primarily by Canaanite scribes, illuminate social, political, and religious relationships between Canaan and Egypt during the reign of Amenhotep III and Akhenaten. Why did they put this here? What is this we're reading again? Major representative examples. So this is a major representative example of ancient, I'm not going to put Near Eastern, you'll see why, non-biblical documents that provide parallels to or shed light, clarity, on various Old Testament passages. Akhenaten, right? The Atonist doctrine. Second one, Amenhotep's wisdom. 30, can y'all read this with me because my English may not be good. 30 chapters of wisdom instruction are similar to Proverbs 22:17 to Proverbs 24:22. So where's Proverbs come from? Amenhotep. Wisdom. In Africa.
I'm going to see if we can get some more.
Because Amenhotep was a ruler in Nubia, what they call it Sudan to the history. So his wisdom was taken by someone, namely Constantine and Alexander the Greek. Not the Greek. When they had in Alexandria, or Iskandariya, they call it today, and they were removing records and things around, someone borrowed Amenhotep's wisdom, and Amenhotep is the father of Akhenaten, and put it in the Bible called Proverbs, and these scholars are doing what? Admitting it. Well, let's see. Let's continue. Atrahasis epics. A cosmological epic depicts creation in early human history, including the which became what? Genesis, what does it say there? So where does Genesis 1 through 9 come from that the scholars are admitting? Atrahasis. Well, Rev, what the heck is Atrahasis? Well, the Atrahasis is what they're calling Babylonian theodicy or Babylonian records. Well, how does that relate to Africa, Rev? Well, biblically, there was a guy, hunter, mighty hunter, respected, Nimrod. Anybody ever heard of Nimrod? Mighty hunter, Bible, Genesis 10. Ruler of Akkad, Iraq, Babel, Calneh, and Sumer, Shinar. But what was Nimrod? Oh, well, brother, Nimrod was a Mesopotamian. I didn't say where he lived. I said, what was he? Because you taught me in St. Raymond's Elementary, in the Catholic Church, you taught me Nimrod was the son of Cush. That's right. And Cush is Ethiopia. So if Nimrod is the son of Cush, and all Bible scholars say Cush is Ethiopia, then Nimrod was an Ethiopian. But, wait a minute. Cush was the son of
Ham.
And all Bible scholars tell me Ham means black or Hamid. So Nimrod was an African, Hamite, Camite, Cushite, ruling in... Are there Africans still in Iraq today?
Yes.
Yeah. Please don't believe me. Go on your Google. Use that iPhone.
That's right. They sure is.
Can you get me that? Matter of fact, Revelation. Can you grab me one of those Revelations? I have a bunch of pictures of them. In Iraq today, and their story is not being told. We talk about the Kurds and we talk about all the Shiites and the Sunnis, but there's Africans who've been living there who identify as Africans and say, we've been here before these other Persians came in, but no one's talking their story. Let's continue. Next one. Babylonian theodicy. What does it tell us? A sufferer and his friend dialogue with each other. What did it become according to these Bible scholars? So where does the book of Job come from? Babylonian theodicy. Who are the Babylonians? Oh, Nimrod ruled in Babylon. Bab Ilion, the doorway to the highest. Bab. In Hebrew, that thing there, that door is called Bab. So if I said Babylon, they'll say confusion or to wrestle. No, Bab Ilion, doorway to the highest. Let's keep reading. Cyrus Cylinder, Akkadian. Tell me some cities Nimrod ruled again. Akkad, Erech, Babel, Calneh, and Shinar. So when we're talking about the Akkadian cylinder, or the Cyrus cylinder, they say here, King Cyrus of what? Of Persia. Records the conquest of Babylon. Persia. Where's Persia today?
Modern day Ivory.
Huh?
Iran.
Farsi. Persia. There's Africans living in Iran today. And they say this became what book? Daniel's 5:30 and Daniel 6:28. So they're admitting that someone's borrowing from other people's writings to form, and like Dr. Kama just said, are so bold they will tell you. They will tell you, we stole your stuff. And you go, yeah, you stole my stuff. Okay, so now. Isn't that strange? Well, let's continue. Dead Sea Scrolls. Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Several hundred what? Where was the Dead Sea Scrolls found? Does anyone know?
Qumran.
Called Qumranian caves, the Qumranian tablets or scrolls. Like the Malian manuscripts that they found about 3 years ago. They go back over 10,000 years and speak of cities in West Africa that rival Mesopotamia in how old they were. And all of a sudden, after these manuscripts were found, an Indo-Arab starts this whole Taliban people going into Mali and burning the records. And then the French, the heroes, come in and say, we'll save the day. Are they saving the day, or are they there to take those records, reinterpret them, and then give them back to you? We're watching it happen again. They're saying the records are being burned. Of course I can do that. If I come in, if you're in there burning records, I push you out, but I've been trying to get to these records because when they first found it and realized that the Malian manuscripts were being kept by these indigenous Africans in West Africa for thousands of years, passed from mother to daughter, they said, we want those records to interpret them. And at the time, the president of South Africa was Thabo Mbeki, and he stood up and said, no, the African Union will send money and we'll send our own archaeologists to form our libraries and put preservation in the right conditions to keep these papyruses from falling apart. Because every time someone finds your records, they take it over and they reinterpret it before they give it to you. So he said, no, we won't do that, but now all of a sudden war. Let's continue. What else? Ebla tablets. Can somebody read that for me, please? Thousands of commercial, legal, what else?
Literary and agricultural texts describe the cultural vitality and political power of pre-patriarchal civilization in northern Syria.
Why do they say pre-patriarchal civilization? Who are the patriarchs of religion? Who's a patriarch of monotheism according to what we learned as children? Abraham. But here it's telling us, did you know the Ebla tablets speak about a man called Abraham? So please don't believe me. I could be lying. He made it up last night. You know? So go on the internet, do your homework, look up Ebla tablets. That's why we make copies. You take it home. If you really want to know, if you really want to find out that you as a Nubian Melaninite had a true religious identity, had the original, these are the original books of the Bible. Let's continue. The Elephantine Papyri. What is Elephantine? Can anyone tell us where this is?
Island. So it's an island.
Off of where?
The Nile.
The Nile. Aramaic. Contracts and letters document life among Jews who fled to southern Egypt after Jerusalem was destroyed. Which Jews? Was it the converted Jews called Khazars of Russia? Or was it you, the Tamaraean Judeans? Was it you, the Igbo? Was it you, the Lemba? Was it, if anyone doesn't know who the Lemba are, Lemba, the Lemba European Jews went down into Uganda, where they saw these dark men and women who said that they were better Israel, like the Colossians, who don't like to be called Colossians, sign of disrespect. And they took cotton swabs, they did documentaries, and they said, we ran these cotton swabs, and we found out that these men and women were 99% genetically the Kohen of Israel, when the so-called Jews of today are only 2% genetically the Kohen of ancient Israel. The original Levitical priests, say Levi. Well, in the ancient language, that V sound wasn't there. So it was Lawi. Say Lawi. Lawgivers, yes? Is there a Lawi in Africa?
Malawi.
Where the lawgivers came. You are those original tribes, but we just don't know the language. We don't realize the Igbo. Say Igbo. Now say Ibir. Now say Hebrew. You are the original Igbo or Hebrews. That's who you are. These original manuscripts we're reading, you had them. This was your text. When you say Ethiopia, say Ethiopia. Say it again. What are you saying when you say Ethiopia? Ether utopia. What's an utopia? So what is an ether utopia? A heavenly place where ether beings reside. You didn't call it ethertopia. You called it Aksum.
Right.
But Ak in Tamare was the etheric body, the transient spirit. The Ak, the Ba, the Ka. You were the Aksumites. Why were you called Aksumites? Say Sumite. Now say Shemite. Now say Sumerian. You were the original ancient Sumerians. How do we know? Nimrod was the son of Cush. Nimrod ruled in Shinar. Shinar was Sumer. Nimrod was the son of Cush. Cush was Ethiopia. So you were the original Sumerians. Someone knew this. Let's continue. I'm going to make you understand what we're here to do today. The Enuma Elish, Akkadian, Marduk, the Babylonian god of cosmic order, is elevated to the supreme position in the pantheon. The 7-tablet epic contains an account of what? Creation. And what else does it say there? Genesis 1 and 8. So do they know that these are your records? The only people that don't know is no one's. You can't blame anybody anymore because it's here. Yeah. Now, are you going to read this, see this, hear this, and then reject it? Don't say no for them. Each person in here now, you have to speak for yourself. I don't care what your gender, your race, how tall, short, thick, thin, brown, dark. That means nothing to me. What matters to me is, are you the type of individual that when you see truth, hear truth, taste truth, smell truth, rejects it? Or can you handle the reality that I've been lied to? Not to where I get angry, because anger has no place in this. But to where I decide to do something about it. To take what I'm learning and make sure I convey it to others. Because that's the dilemma we're faced with. So, and you can read the rest on your own. However, I wanted to touch on it because when we speak of the original books of the Bible, see, when you say God, say God.
God.
Say God again.
God.
This word God as it's been given to us, without never having the opportunity to find its origin, or to question its origin, because if you question it, you are damned. You're a bad person. You're no good. You're a blasphemer. You feel guilty. So when we speak of God, and we think about Egyptians, and we think Egyptian pagan, though Isaiah 19 says in that day the Egyptians shall be first, but there'll be two Egyptians. These two Egyptians. So we say Tamaré. Did we as Africans worship animals? Or y'all have these masks? You wear these masks, these animal masks. Oh, you mean like the California Golden Bears wears a bear uniform? You mean like the Florida Gators wears an alligator mask? Right. You mean like the Georgia Bulldog walk around with a little ugly dog? Okay. Did we worship animals, or were these our mascots? Well, what are mascots associated or attributed to? Universities. These places were not temples. These were our universities where we studied These were our universities where we studied the universe. That's why it was originally called a university. Because the first thing you learned was about the universe and its relationship to you. It was called solar biology. That teaches us that everything that happens in me is happening in the universe. Right. The way the cells of my body move, the way the planets rotate around the sun, the way the sun or the solar system rotates around its central point within the Milky Way galaxy, the way the Milky Way moves around its central point in the universe. A macrocosm of the microcosm. Or a microcosm of the macrocosm. We say, which was first, the macro or the micro? God said, let there be light. So was the light first or everything after it? The light. The Big Bang. The spark. The great word. Whichever way you need to say it. So micro started first, right? When micro started, was it potent or impotent? Was it potential energy or kinetic energy? Potential energy. So that minute particle, that atom, or atom, or Adam, atom, cellular, electrical energy, Adam, flesh energy. Well, Adam is a man, is he? Created he male and created he them. The design of the physical anatomy is it a male or female design? How many say male? How many say female? How many say I don't know? Well, we have something on all of us called mammary glands, which in the average man has no use. And I said in the average because nowadays some men are lactating because of the environmental estrogens that are being put in the food. So it does happen. But originally, what's the purpose of mammary gland? In every mammal, the amount of mammary glands that the mammal have depict the amount of children that the mammal originally was supposed to have. Right? If I have a dog, dog's pregnant, 6 mammary glands, how many babies going to come? 6. Reality, yes? If I have a cat, pregnant, 7, Mammary glands, how many kittens? You know that's what's coming. So if we as human beings have 2, then how many male and female created he then? Originally, there was a male and a female when each individual was born. That's why there was 2. But men have them, but there's no use for them. So reality, that X chromosome and that Y, which is a shrunken X, that's maimed with one of the sides. Yes?
Yes.
Come on with it, brother. I gotta tell you what it is. I'm a man. I'm okay with saying it. Because the original Kanessa or Kanisa, the word Kanisa was the original word for church. In Israel today, they call it the Israeli Knesset. It's assembly. But when you say Knesset, you're saying Ka, say Ka. Spirit, Nisa, the female. And it was called the mother. The mother, the church was mother. When I go to Catholicism and I stand in front of any cathedral, and I'm using Catholicism because they're the original Greco-Romanized church, them in the Greek Orthodox, and I stand in front of a cathedral, I want you to visualize in your mind a cathedral for a moment. And you're staring at the bottom step of that cathedral, and you're looking up. And you're walking up those steps and you see these 2 doors. And around this door you see a dome. And now look up for a moment in your mind and see these 2 windows on each side. And around these windows another dome. And ask yourself, what are you looking at? I'm looking at the female. And they used to say a man must be born again. So he would enter into the womb of the mother and be forgiven of sins from one who shed blood and then come back out. Because the Greco-Romans did not understand or did not like the fact that females were able to do something that they could not, which was purify yourself through the shedding of blood. Your body's way of recalibrating itself every month. So they made it, when in reality they were jealous of that. And so had to figure a way for someone to come in and also shed blood. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, whoever shall believe in him shall perish in life. And this Son went on a cross and bled so that you would be forgiven. But all of us, any man in here been in a delivery room with a baby coming? If you haven't, let me speak from experience. The greatest thing you can never see, but it will give you a whole lot of respect. Your mother laid down her life so that you can live. Because I've seen my wife hooked up to that machine that's monitoring the baby. That's what it sounds like. I'm serious. As a guy, you're like, and then you're watching. They have this other monitor to tell you when the contraction's coming. And you watch these numbers climb from like 40 to like 250. And I'm not real good at math. I do like math, but I know that's a lot. And at 40 hertz, 250 must be like, oh, and I've made the mistake of putting my hand in my wife's hand, and she bent them all. Like, Now, I'm saying that to say she laid down her life so that we may be. So in Tamaré, they always put the mother on the throne and a baby in her lap. And that was the symbol of life, because all babies know when they come out to turn towards that source of life. And that source of life became a circle with a dot in the center, which is the mammary gland. But when you took it to science, it became a symbol of the atom. Before the atom begins the chaos, and that's why the word Adam in Hebrew has a yad meme at the end. But when you add a yad meme or a meme at the end, it becomes male and female, becomes feminine. The word Elohim is not masculine. The word Elohim with a yad meme in Hebrew makes it feminine. There's singular, dual, tri, and then more. But when monotheism came in, what is monotheism? No, that's not what it means. Monos is a Greek god of sarcasm. Theos is a Latin interpretation of that Greek god. Monotheism is the teachings of sarcastic doctrines. I'm sitting here, minding my own business. And a rushing mighty wind moving. I was moving. And everything was just... And I stood up and I heard a voice. It said, Rashida. He said, yes, Lord, come here. And all of a sudden, I just rose up off my feet. I was pregnant. Come on, brothers. Oh my God, praise God. Let's go pray together, right? Come on, mothers. This is your daughter. You'd be happy for, he's here. He's back. No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, really? He came? Okay. He's about to have to come again. We leave our logic when we get to the mosque. We leave our logic when we get to the synagogue. We leave our logic when we get to the church because it's the one place that says mythology is possible. Moses crossed the Red Sea. Well, the Red Sea or the Reed Sea is not a sea. It's not. It's only as deep enough for you to, how do you say this? It's so shallow that you can wade across it. Did you know that? Please don't believe me. Read up on it. You can actually go like this and walk across the Red Sea. It kind of takes away the split the water. I mean, because if we can walk across it, then, Moses, why you, dude?
We don't even need to do
No, I'm not. Now, why is this so important? Did you have a Moses? What if I said Thutmose? What does Mos mean? Well, Moses means to be drawn forth from the Nile. In what language? In Hebrew. But who named him Moses? Pharaoh's daughter. Did she speak Hebrew? No. So what did Moses mean in her language? I'm your mother. I name you Moses. I don't speak French. You're going to tell me what your name means in French. Does that make sense? Mos means a child. But what if I told you in Tamaré, in ancient Africa, there was a Tahutimos the first, or Thutmose the first, Tahutimos the second, and Tahutimos the third, and that Tahutimos the first was the keeper of the African or Egyptian Ark of the Covenant. Please don't believe me. The whole symbol of the Ark of the Covenant with these cherubims with wings is nothing but the mother goddess or angelic host Isis or Aset with her wings outstretched. Sometimes they draw her like this. Sometimes she's drawn like this. And other times she's drawn like this to represent the 3 degrees that you travel. Heliopolis, Thebes, and Memphis. Or Hetkata, Nut, and Anu, the 3 sacred cities of initiation. So they put this on the Ark of the Covenant, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, the movie that came out years ago, the quest to find the Ark of the Covenant. What were the Israelites doing drawing an African goddess on their Ark of the Covenant, unless those Israelites were really you? See, there's a play on word where they'll say Israeli. Say Israeli. Israeli. Don't confuse Israeli with Israel. Israel is Israel. Isis, Re, and Il. You are Israel. You're not Israeli. And they know they're not the chosen seed. They know it. I was watching the other day that the Israeli ambassador to America. And he was on the program, the comedian Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you're the chosen. And Jon Stewart makes a joke. Well, the chosen people of God. He said, no. The chosen people of God are in the Bible. We're just the Israeli. The ambassador just said this out of his mouth. Because they know that you are the original tribes. You are the tribe of Dan. But don't confuse the tribe of Dan with the tribe of Denoi. The land of Eden is in Africa. In the Bible it says where the 4 rivers meet. Well, where those 4 rivers meet happens to be at a place called Tuti, in a place called Nubia, in a place called Sudan. That's right. So where's my new Bible? We'll talk about it.
It might be in this room right now.
Okay? So when these individuals, when they were looking at your records, something happened. An individual who had no place in creation had to create a place for himself. I'm going to say it again. An individual that had no place in creation the Greeks and the Romans, had to create a place for themselves. The very word create is the word Crete. The Crete Islands, from where they get Socrates. When you say Socrates, Cretes, someone who was creating something, they were creating a dogma, a doctrine that made you no longer realize you were Messa. The word Messa, M-E-S-S-E-H, means to anoint with the oil of a hippopotamus. All pharaohs and female rulers and initiates were anointed with this sacred oil, which made up a Messa Kares. Kares, ka, say ka. Now say rest. The word rest is where the Hebrews get Rosh, like Rosh Hashanah. The Muslims get it as Rais. It means head. In Tamareh, the Agdad, or the sacred eight, were called Rashanad, the head of each generation. So they took this Rais, this Rash, this Kares, this consciousness. The Rastas say, what do they say? Ras Tafara. Ras, the head. The head Tafara, the head lion. Afirti. Tafara Afirti means the ruler. And they understood because of language, the ancients knew that you were these original tribes. You are Dan. You are Joseph. But when I say Joseph, please don't think about this little guy who goes into Egypt and he's so fine that the head of the Pharaoh's land, his number one right-hand man's wife, oh my God, you see Joseph, my God, I got to have him. And she tears off his coat because that's how the story's written. Really? Really? This little boy comes into Egypt where we as African men were, and the best she looked at her and said, I want some Joseph. Really? It makes sense to you? Don't leave your logic somewhere. You know this, when you read the Bible, you need to have logic with you. No, you can't read with the physical eye, brother. You got to use the spirit. Then why did he give me physical eyes? Don't give me two eyes and then say, well, see, brother, you questioning God. No, I'm not questioning you. According to you, God's in heaven. Negro, I'm standing here looking at you. So stop telling me I'm questioning God and just say, I don't know. And I know you don't know. That's why we're here. You follow? You are Yasuf. Say Yasuf.
Yasuf.
In Hebrew, they say Yosef. Like Dr. Ben Yochanan. Yosef. Yusuf means to add on in Hebrew. But the name Yasuf means Osuf. Suf, S-U-F or S-U-W-F, means the wool apron. These were initiates. You are Reuben. But I want you to spell Reuben for me.
Reuben.
Spell it.
R-U-B-E.
R-E-U-B-E-N. And they say Reuben because of the French influence, Reuben. But we are not French. I want you to say what you see in your mind.
Reuben.
Reuben. What's the Ben? Ben. What's the Ben? The Tikhinu, or what you call the obelisk. The builders of the great obelisk. The people from Aksum who understood that symbol was a symbol of procreation.
That's right.
So you are Reuben, not to be confused with Reuben. You were in Eden, but Eden was Africa because everything they say, the Garden of Eden had everything. Well, that's all Africa. Trees to be desired, and the food, and diamonds, and all. That's Africa. But don't confuse Eden, delight, with Sweden, southwest Eden. Because they say when Cain was put out of Eden, he went south into the land of Nod or Nod. So the tribes, Reuben, Reuben, that's you. Reuben, that's them. Yasuf, that's you. Joseph, that's them. Some other names. Issachar. Issachar is nothing but Issa Sokar. Who is Sokar? Does anyone know the name Sokar? Sokar in Tamareh was the alligator mascot who protected Asaru's 14 pieces that Satuk chopped up, or 14 tribes. Because see, Osiris was not an individual first. Osiris was Sahu, the constellation that you call today Orion. which was chopped up into 14 pieces, or 14 bright constellations or stars, or 14 tribes, which you became. The biblical Israelites are told to have 12 tribes, right? Plus a daughter, right? That makes how many? Plus 2 sons by Joseph, right? That makes how many? How many tribes do they know? Or do they just not know? Or do they just not want to tell us? Another tribe. Give me another name of a tribe. Benjamin. What is Ben? Ben. Again. Yemen. Where's Yemen located?
Africa.
Does anybody know where Yemen is?
Yeah, Africa.
It's in North Africa. I know it sounds Middle East because everything we think good, it can't be in Africa. It can't be in Africa. But the name Benjamin is Ben-Yamin. And Yamin, they say, means the right hand. Give me another tribe.
Naphtali.
Nephish Tali. But the word Nephish means spirit in Hebrew. Nephish. Nephish Tali. So you are Nephish Tali. Or Neptuhim, which is an African tribe. Neptuhim. There were tribes mentioned in Genesis before the Abraham and the Isaac and the Jacob. You were Israel, say Israel, Ishmael, and Midiani. Midiani were the tribes of Ani. Ani, like the scribe Ani, the heavenly one. When Moses, according to the Bible story, says, "Who should I say has sent me?" What was the response?
I am.
I am that I am. Well, in Hebrew, I am is Ani. Ani. Anna. Anu. Anu is found in Sumer as A-N-U, and is also found in Africa as A-N-N-U. But the in Anu means life, like Adam means life, dam, blood. So when I say Anu, I say life of Nu. Well, who's Nu? Nu is the primordial waters of ancient Africa, Nu or Nun. The savior of Israel, according to the Bible, when Moses was no longer there, who was the one to save Israel? Joshua, son of Nun. In your Bible, Joshua or Yehoshua, which is another way of saying Yahshua, was the son of Nun, the primordial waters. And this individual, Yahshua, what's the root of the name Yahshua? Yahshua. What's the middle part?
Shu.
Who is Shu? And Tefnut, and Gad, and Nut. These were physical beings that went on to become principles and elements and attributes. Like Tesla was a physical being that went on to become a Tesla unit in quantum physics, that went on to become a school of thought that's taught today. Like Einstein was a physical being that went on to become the Einsteinium, the 99th man-made or man-discovered or uncovered element today, that went on to become a school of thought. Well, the Neteru, the angelic beings of Tamarei, were physical beings that embodied certain principles, so much so that when they made the physical transition, others took on and studied their writings and their records and formed universities to study the universe of Dendera. Dr. Kaba mentioned what we also refer to as Tawaret. In the Bible in Revelations it says, I saw a woman with the sun and moon under her feet and 12 stars upon her head. You have that posted?
Yes.
Well, what's the 12 stars? The 12 stars are the constellations of Dendera. The Dendera, where they say the Israelites went into a place called the Mount Sinai, when Mount Sinai is a place there today called Sedabit el-Kedem, where the temple of the angelic host Hathor is, and the great solar biological constellation is there. This symbol around here. And this Ta-Waret, say Ta, earth, Wa, and Ret, the sun. But Ret, R-E-T, in Tamarei was the wife or the feminine principle of Re. So Ta-Waret acknowledged that the original sun or the original light or the original intellect was the female. And they calculated our own form of genetic engineering. We were able to pinpoint the type of beings that would be born based upon the time of year they were born and the respective angelic hosts. And I got to say angelic hosts to keep you from feeling uncomfortable. Because if I say the respective God, then you go back to blasphemy subconsciously without even wanting to do so. Because it's been inbred in us. But if I say angelic host, sounds a little bit less threatening. So these angelic hosts, who were physical women and men, who went on to become guardians, and where did they go? Where's your mother and father, and great-grandmother and great-father? Where'd they go? Back inside of you. It's called your DNA and your RNA. When I'm looking in your eyes, I know for a fact, that you had great-greats that lived here 20,000 years ago. How do I know? Because you're here. I want you to take a moment, and then I want to bring Dr. Calder up so we can take some questions. I want you to think for a moment. I want you to tell me some list of these names. I need your help. Abraham had 2 sons. What were their names? Say it loud. Don't be afraid. Isaac and Jacob. Isaac and Ishmael. Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael. Yes. And Isaac had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob had 12 sons, and their names were, come on, Benjamin, Issachar, Naphtali, Zebulun. Yes, very good. And out of Judah came David. Yes, David had a son named Solomon. Went on down, they say out of Solomon's line, according to them, came Jesus. Yes? Everybody got that? And your great-grandmother's name was? Great-great-great-grandmother? Why is that important? Who convinced us to memorize all of these names of individuals we can't prove were here or how they were here? But yet those people that are directly responsible for us being here, we can't rattle their names off. That's right. Somebody's really getting that shit. Somebody said, your great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather, great-great-great, not important. Just memorize Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's going to into heaven. We said, yes. And snipped away at our roots. Meanwhile, biblically, all the biblical patriarchs always were quoting, I am Isaac, the son of Abraham, of the house of the line of the... They understood the importance of it. You no longer have that as an excuse because you now have genetic testing, the little swabs, put it in there, send it off, find out who you are, go do some homework.
That's right. We can know.
Get into the original books of the Bible. You asked about your Bible, it's called the original books of the Bible. It's here. And I make it because I'm covering religion, I'm translating these records into English that we speak today. And under it, if you have a copy, I can...
What would you like?
The ones are here for sale.
Yes.
Can you grab me one?
What are you looking for?
Original books of the Bible, I'm sorry. And in it, everything we say, when we show you the original records, we give you how it came together, the translation, the explanation, and then every biblical quote that we can find, which is the part that takes so long, right? But every biblical, some days I just like I don't do this no more, right? But every biblical quote that falls in line with it. Do you like, for example, if I said to you the Bible agrees that there was an ice age, how many would say no? But it does say that in the Bible, that the whole planet was covered under ice. And so, Pastor Phil, please. You follow? And so this is what we're doing. For those who want it, Dr. Kaba, nor myself, will ever claim to have all the answers to everyone's problems on the planet. Why? Number one, personally, we know we couldn't handle it. That's just too much. 7 billion people, I don't have enough time to put it with my kids and try to keep them in order. But more importantly, we acknowledge that the universe is living. And this living universe, as a result of the powers of the Most High Heavenly One, the Source, the Creator, those creative forces responsible for working in conjunction with the Creator, speaks to each individual in the manner in which you need to hear it. If you're a scientist, then it can be explained scientifically. If you're into metaphysics, then it can be explained metaphysically. If you're into alchemy, then we have to explain it alchemically. If you're into religion, then we'll explain it religiously. You follow what I'm saying? For example, that Tawaret with those 12 signs around her, like Jesus took and put 12 signs around Zeus, called 12 disciples today. Were there originally disciples who walked with Tut-Ankh-Aten? The name Tut-Ankh-Aten means the living image of the Aten. The book of Colossians 4:11 says Jesus is the living image of the invisible God. Tut-Ankh-Aten was the Mesech of our family line 2,000 years ago. And I don't mean our black, I mean those who embrace consciousness. That's why I wear this. This is not Zeus. This is a symbol of the Aten, that each one of us must be willing to lay down our life, to sacrifice for the betterment of humanity, like Dr. King, like Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, Bob Marley, Harriet Tubman, Betty Shabazz, Coretta Scott King. All of them had to put aside their personal, what they would have personally liked, because I'm sure Dr. King as an attorney and a preacher, or Madiba Mandela as an attorney, they could have lived life real good. At their time, they could have, look, I'm just going to make my money, and good luck with that other stuff. But they had to put aside what they personally wanted and get into self-sacrifice. And that is the records of the original books of the Bible. For time's sake, I want Dr. Calvin to please come up, and I would like for us to take some questions from you all if you have questions.
Can we give a round of applause to Dr. Calvin? Do you want to take this time now? Would you like for me to give them the opportunity to start buying anything? Okay.
If you have questions, then please feel free to ask. Well, Dr. Varma's books, as well as Dr. Kaba's DVDs and lectures are available, and you can make those purchases now.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I have a couple of questions. Okay, the paperwork that you gave us, that came out of the front of that book.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So this, and you know what? And when I began asking questions, I began looking at the front of the Bible, because all we go to is right to Genesis 1:1. But there's a lot written in these Bibles that we just skip over as people. Okay, great. Now, my next question is to Dr. Cowell. Okay, you talked about your role as an educator and curriculum building. I do a blog talk radio show, and I talk about homeschooling. Matter of fact, no derived speech. Yeah, that's my anyway. I'm talking to different parents, and they want to know. I talked to a parent the other day. Their granddaughter is learning about world history. She does good in math, but when it comes to science, language arts, and history, she doesn't quite get it. And I asked about the comprehension. Is she comprehending what she's reading? And I find out what kind of books she likes to read. She likes to read books about people's lives. So is there a curriculum that's out there that maybe you put out there that I can purchase or get a hold of and help these young people to learn more about who they are? Because we, like you said, we all learn differently.
I have there are numbers of ways that you can approach this. But to be very honest, it is not the best business practice. But the reason why I said I'd like to return to Fresno and I'd like to return to San Diego and any other place that the community calls me. Curriculum development is really what I focus on. People say to me, brother, did you ever write a book? I don't write books, I write curriculum.
Right.
There's a big difference between curriculum writing and writing a book. A student takes a test. Fractions. Okay? And out of 10 questions, Ahine gets 9 wrong. Teacher says, Ahine, you don't understand fractions. You fail. In her sadness, her frustration, Ahine puts a headset on. She goes out and she starts to sing Alicia Keys, Girl on Fire. Now, Ahine can sing. We know the difference between sing and sang. Sister can sing. The reason why I say this, Ahine could not have started that song without a fraction. 2/4 times, 4/4 times. When Ahine is singing, she is singing fractions. Quarter note, half note. Musicians and dancers think in base 4. They think in base 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then one set, 0 left over. What would happen if we established a system of homeschooling where we took like the choral teacher and a math teacher who might be an accountant, but she teaches the children math? One of the things about homeschooling is that many times families are overwhelmed because they say, look, I don't want my child in the public school system, but at the same time, what am I going to do with them all day? We have to create cells where we reach out to the community and we find out maybe one parent is an accountant. She could be the math teacher. Another may have been a track star in college, but she's working somewhere. She could be the gym teacher. There's another one that could be a great artist. He could be the art teacher. So that what I'm saying is that if you have 20 children, one parent who loves art could be the one that teaches. One parent who's a prolific reader can be the reading teacher. If we bring, like in schools, I brought staff together. I brought choral teachers together and math teachers together. And when the choral teacher was teaching chorus song, she was at the same time teaching fractions in gospel, in choral. While the math teacher had the child the same day, was teaching fractions. The first thing that Ahine is going to say is, wow, that's what Miss Johnson said in choral class. And when she's in choral class, she said, wow, that sounds a lot like what was going on in math class. You have to immerse the child in a conceptual framework. As African thinkers, we are not discipline bound. We don't teach, we don't study math, we don't study science, we don't study reading. What we do is that we bring it all together. Dr. Wade Noble calls it the core curriculum. Interdisciplinary studies. And so that when you have a basketball player and you have a math teacher, if you took the gym teacher and you took the basketball player and the gym teacher was teaching the child rate times time equals distance, when you throw the ball, the rate that you throw the ball times the time it's in the air is going to determine its distance. If the gym teacher kept reinforcing the rate times time equals distance in gym class, Kwame is going to go now into math class, and he's going to learn rate times time equals distance. The train is leaving San Diego on his way to Bakersfield. He has to stop and Basé. How much quicker will it have to go to reach Bakersfield on time? That's rate times time equals distance. Every room, every place you have water, that's a science class. Whether it's the bathroom, the kitchen, or if you have a water plug outside your house. Right. You're teaching science. You put salt in water. You stir it. The salt disappears. But then you put heat on the water evaporates, and the salt is at the bottom of the glass. You see? That's what children do every day. Kool-Aid with sugar. Every day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are principles that you can teach the children because what we have to do, and let me tell you something else while I'm here. Just like I said to you, I'm not in the charter school, not in the charter school. Not in the organized school. I'm watching a commercial on TV. Skateboard comes across the kitchen floor. Mother says, Aaron, I told you no skateboarding in the house. But on the skateboard is a child report card. Mother picks the report card up. All of a sudden now Aaron's getting A's in school. She said, I knew that was the best thing I ever did when I sent you to Sylvan's Learning Center. 3 times a week, 2 hours a day. Sylvan, in 6 hours, did what 35 hours in the classroom couldn't do. Forget going to school. Let's just go to Sylvan for 6 hours a week. But what is it? It's the community centers. It's this African American museum. It's the Hinton Center. It's developing the type of educational systems after school. This is a real thing we can do. No pie in the sky. I'm not into overwhelming us by attempting to do something that's going to take time and planning and money. What do you have in your hand? You have this museum. You have rooms where you can bring the children. What do you have in your hand? You have the Hinton Center where the children can come. And it's already, they got classrooms set up there already. The anchor school is there.
Sure.
Bring the children there 3 times a week. Maybe start once a week. Bring interested people together. Bring your homeschoolers together. Make the Hinton Center or make this museum a homeschooling hub where this can be a center where homeschoolers can somehow interact. And guess what you're going to have when you get it down? You're going to have an African perspective of how to teach our children, because that's how we taught it. That's what a Pera'unk is. It is a center where families used to come. I say school is a place where adults go to learn, and children happen to go there to benefit from what the adults are learning. And that is what I'm offering our community, staff development. I have DVDs dealing with multiple intelligences, Bloom's taxonomy. You see, because there's a difference between intent and content. Content is what you teach. Intent is how you teach it. The Moors said that after you learned what you learned, you could throw that away because it was learning that was most important. Methodology is extremely important. I could teach you European history from an African perspective and you'd learn a great deal. I could teach you African history from a European perspective and you'd walk away remembering nothing. Because this system of education does not require intellect. I teach children how to take standardized tests. Just let's get that out the way so I can teach you what I think you need to know. Right. And here's 2 ways you can pass a test. Standardized test. When you know the right answer and when you know all the wrong answers. Think about what I'm saying. When you know the right answer and when you know the wrong answer, you can pass a test. Here's what you do as it relates to passing standardized tests. Always, let's just go by grades. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Okay? Here's what you do. First grade students, go out, go to Barnes & Noble and get a 2nd grade vocabulary test. Every test is a vocabulary test. Even if you don't know the answer, if you know what the word means, you can answer the question. Immerse children in vocabulary. Take them through a process of comprehending the words. And when they take every test is bound in science or social studies. Every reading test is bound in a question dealing with social studies or dealing with science. Somehow, some way. That's the humanities. Whenever you're going to teach a class, let me get into wood. I go to Dr. Ben, Egypt with Dr. Ben. I'm just taken back by this. I'm getting flashback because I think I told you the story first time around. No, I didn't. I told you about the Happy River.
Right.
Okay.
And the pyramids.
And the pyramid, exactly. Yeah, Muhammad. I go back. I'm a kindergarten teacher. Oh man, I'm just so excited. I mean, I've gone to Egypt with Dr. I mean, it's just huge. I come back. I'm just so excited. I'm showing them the slides. I'm talking to them about ancient Egypt, and I'm giving all of them, and I'm teaching them, and all of a sudden, the child raises his hand and says, Brother Booker T, the next time we have a class trip, can we go to ancient Egypt? What did I do? I did not ground the child in time and space.
That's right.
I didn't tell the child that ancient meant long ago, and Egypt is far away. The slides were up here. It's called spatiality. The slides, they saw. It was right there. It was close to them. So to a 5-year-old, it's close. You see? So that in my excitement, it made it appear that I was in ancient Egypt, not in Egypt, studying what happened there years ago. When you are teaching a human being, the first thing you do is you ground them in space, geography. And then you ground them in time, which is history. And then you can take them any way you want to take them at any point in time because they're grounded. Let me give you another example. Stargate. You all saw Stargate? Okay. The movie opens up. The first 48 seconds They take you to 10,000 BC, North Africa. Then they take you to 1932 Egypt, and within 4 minutes they now place you in about 1989 in a museum in New York City. If you walked in 6 minutes late, you would never be able to understand that story. Because you weren't grounded in space and time. You didn't know that story was evolved around 10,000 BC and then 1932. You walked in 1989. And in watching that movie, you would never understand the movie because you walked out of space and time. The way the neurons work, going back to the Aten, going back to the way in which our ancestors fought, going back to the fundamental common sense that brother was just dropping in terms of just looking at things. They want you and they get upset when you refuse